My silent screams are back. I felt that they were gone, moving further from the noise. It finally hit me that the noise gets louder when the screams are not heard. Not screaming for what is right and loving and just. So I'm screaming for anyone that still thinks this man is for good in this world. How can you put your faith in a man that is searching for ways to not pay him and his family's fair share of taxes? How can you put your faith into someone that wants to say your child has no right to be? How can you put your faith in someone that feels the need to cover everything he sees in gold with our tax dollars and is on an incessant quest to put his name and likeness on anything that he can, even monuments to our dead heroes, while most are finding it harder and harder to put food on the table and gas in their cars? How can you put your faith in someone that wants to use our tax dollars to pay reparations to some that have tried to promote white supremacy that were involved in the January 6th insurrection, while this POTUS, as POTUS, at the time, sat by and watched it go down for 3 hours? We'll never know if one of his constant MAGA tweets would have been able to stop it, because he didn't bother to ask them to stop for 3 hours. I can certainly see why he may feel guilt. How can you watch them try to whitewash Black history? How can you stand by and watch them try to destroy the greatness of this nation by trying to do away with the separation of church and state? An ideal that made us the beloved melting pot of the world and promoted the greatest love of all, loving your neighbor as yourself, realizing that our neighbors are worldwide, and if there are other worlds, you know deep down you fell in love with E.T. You can feign opposition all you like, claim that this nation was created by Christian values. Let's say you may need to send your prayers up to the Indian gods that our forefathers committed genocide upon, and then say that again by looking in the mirror. Maybe it will arouse some silent screams within yourself. There are plenty of silent screams to be had. Don't let them steal your ideals of faith and make them into something that you can't possibly believe in. That is, if you believe in love. By giving 1 ounce of support to a narcissistic, warmongering, bullying king wannabe that keeps yelling the sky is falling at every turn. A sky that, from my humble opinion, he is intent on destroying, because the world has held up a mirror to his face, and I don't see how he could possibly truly like what he sees. So what were my silent screams about? Definitely all that I had mentioned, but on a personal level, it certainly didn't start there. It started with hearing the word sissy. From those that I loved, those ministers I heard on the radio, those intent on pushing the words of an old wealthy man in the past that thought it a grand idea to stone people to death for what they thought might be sins at the time. Take note, we don't stone people any longer. But I have silent screams when I hear they want to bring back firing squads. Yes, I didn't like the word sissy, but eventually I didn't yell and scream. Because from what I saw around me, there was no one that would understand my voice in my small town. They were all screaming sissy. So I kept it inside, so far pressed down that it was only years later that I could even begin to see and love myself. There are others before and after me that have certainly screamed and fought for their freedoms in this world, and for all of them, I am certainly thankful. It's not just me being gay, but it also applies to women. I don't know at the many times I've seen Bible verses flung around trying to beat down women and keep them from their rightful loving potential. Look in the mirror. Do you honestly think we could be in any worse position globally with a woman at the helm than we are now? Also, I'm not asking you to look in the mirror and beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself and recognize that the wealthy man that are trying to tell you what a higher being wants based on what other wealthy men wrote down back in the day when books were costly items are not any nearer or further away from the possibilities of an understanding of what any higher being would think than a man in the moon. But in my humble opinion, I would think those with the foremost thought of loving one another as you love yourself would be on a pretty great path. Just as one example of that would be to see so many chapters in books based on genealogy that the men that later found those books decided were best to put in that book. And I'm thinking honestly, would a higher being even give a hoot about your genealogy if the idea was to love one another? My silent scream says no. My heart screams for justice every day on loving one another. Don't let these wealthy men steal your inner voice that's screaming and making it into something that you don't recognize as being worthy of your faith. Thank you. Peace out.